Close your eyes for just a moment. Think back to the summer of 1969. Maybe you were a child, sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, eyes wide inches from a black and white television screen. Maybe you were gathered with your family around that glowing box, your mother gripping your father's hand without even realizing it. July 20th, 1969. The date when America reached up and touched the stars. To understand why that night meant so much, go back to 1957, when the Soviet Union launched Sputnik into orbit, a small metal sphere blinking across the night sky. To America's leaders, it looked like a warning. America was losing the space race. Then in 1961, a young president stood before Congress and said the words that would define a decade. I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. And 400,000 people answered the call. Engineers, mathematicians, welders, and seamstresses, men and women from every corner of America, driven, not by profit, but by purpose. One of those workers was a seamstress in Massachusetts. Her job was to sew the spacesuits by hand. 21 layers, each stitch within a 64th of an inch. One mistake and an astronaut would die. She never met Neil Armstrong. But on the night of July 20th, watching those first steps on her television, she knew those were her stitches keeping him alive. 3 men were chosen to fly. Neil Armstrong, quiet, humble, a Navy pilot, who had flown 78 combat missions before he was 23. Buzz Aldrin, a MIT doctorate who gave thanks to God on the surface of the moon. And Michael Collins, who orbited alone in absolute silence, 47 minutes at a time and never once complained. But before the story of triumph, there is a story of loss. January 27th, 1967. The crew of Apollo 1, Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee died in a cabin fire on the launch pad. America wept. But NASA's engineers didn't quit. They rebuilt the spacecraft from the ground up for Gus, for Ed, for Roger, so no one else would die the same way. July 16th, 1969. 1 million people came to Florida to watch the launch. Old veterans stood in silence, wondering if they were about to watch 3 more Americans die. The Saturn V rocket to this day, the most powerful machine ever built by human beings, shook the ground for miles. And slowly, almost impossibly slowly, it rose. 1 million Americans began to cry. Not from sadness, but from something they didn't quite have a word for. Pride, maybe. Or the sudden understanding that they were alive at a moment history would never forget. 4 days later, as the Eagle descended toward the surface of the moon, warning lights flashed in the cockpit. A 26-year-old engineer in mission control made a decision in 3 seconds. Go. With 30 seconds of fuel left, Armstrong found his landing spot, and then quietly his voice came over the radio. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Mission control erupted. Men who hadn't smiled in days wept openly. Flight Director Gene Kranz simply bowed his head. 6.5 hours later, Neil Armstrong climbed down the ladder and stepped onto the surface of the moon. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. He stood on the moon and looked back at the Earth, every continent, every ocean, every person he had ever loved. And he could cover it all with his thumb. Buzz Aldrin joined him. They walked for 2 hours and 31 minutes, collected rock samples, and planted the American flag. Back on Earth, 500 million people watched. Not Americans alone, human beings. 500 million human beings looked up at the moon and knew there were people standing on it. When Armstrong was later asked what he was most proud of, he didn't say the landing. He said he was most proud of the 400,000 people who made it possible, the engineers, the seamstresses, the janitors, who swept the floors of Mission Control every night, so the team could come back in the morning. Those 400,000 went home. Most never became famous. Many are gone now, but for 8 days in the summer of 1969, they did something that had never been done and will never be undone. If you were alive that July, if you remember, watching those ghostly images from 250,000 miles away, you were part of it too. John Kennedy didn't live to see it, but his words ring true today as they rang true that night. We choose to go to the moon, not because it is easy, but because it is hard. America chose hard, and America won. If this story moved you, please share it with someone you love. Welcome to American Legacy Stories, where every week we bring you the stories of American courage and heart that deserve to be remembered. Subscribe, and we'll see you next week.